And then sometimes we'd be arguing about like, I had like less sleep than you did, so it's my turn.
Show me your sleep, Matt. Yeah.
And then she would be like, well, you had more hours, and I would be like, yes, but I didn't fall asleep until an hour and a half after because I was overstimulated.
Yes.
So it was just getting getting silly.
That's awesome.
But then we both realized that we were just approaching it really selfishly, as far as like, I am entitled to this amount of sleep, or this amount of me time, or this amount of recharge time. And then like, it was us being selfish and then trying to do it in our own strength too.
True.
Because my pastor / father-in-law convicted me during one of his sermons.
When your father-in-law is your pastor. Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
But he was talking about how like oftentimes we'll be like, oh, I just need to have some me time because that like I'll be fine after that. Oftentimes it's like disguised as I was trying to do it in my own strength and it didn't work out. And instead of trusting the Lord, I'm just going to go do my own thing for like a little bit. Instead of, when you get to the end of your strength, that's when you see the Lord move.
Sure.
Right. And I've been seeing that so often because I like have been sleep deprived for like a very long time.
Well, we're just thankful you joined us today because I know that is it is a challenging stage.
That's that expectation versus reality of you're thinking, oh yeah, they're going to, when they sleep through the night, I'm golden, So you're always resetting that expectation versus reality too.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the Well Grounded Podcast. I am Diane.
And I am Leanne.
And we are so glad to welcome you back to our reflection episode from a continuation of our last episode that was about expectations versus reality. And we had a sweet guest on. Her name was Leanne, and she's a new mom. And wow, did that take me back to those days when we had little kids. That was definitely really special.
Oh, it's so fun. It's so fun seeing her little girl Evelyn growing up and learning so many new things that first year. And you mentioned that in the episode, how much they change in 1 year.
Yeah.
And so we're taking just a minute today to just pause and look at what new motherhood looks like and what we think it's going to look like versus what it really feels like.
Really feels like.
Yeah.
And we're in our season 2, which is called The Sisterhood of Motherhood. And we have just compiled a lot of different guests. So if you're new to our podcast and you haven't listened to us, make sure you subscribe and like us and share us on Instagram at Well Grounded Podcast. And we're also on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. And so just make sure that you share that and help others, spread the word about what we're sharing on here. So we're just excited
and
to do
feedback
that.
for us.
Yes. And
we
feedback.
love hearing from you. So if something really connects with you in some way, please let us know. Just send us a little quick DM or message and just tag us.
Definitely. And I know that before we get started in all of our discussions today, Christmas is right around the corner.
Oh my goodness. It's already here.
Decorations hopefully are done.
Yeah.
You've got family coming in town, different things like that. And so what's something that you are maybe looking forward to this Christmas season?
So our favorite thing on the years we don't travel and we're all just in town together are the local things that we've always done as the kids were growing up. So getting to go and see decorations at hotels and we have like our checklist that we like to do.
Yeah,
so getting to do those, it just takes time, and we are looking forward to that this year, that we're all going to be in town to do that. So
that's very special. And you also have something exciting coming up in January.
Are just so close to our second daughter Charlotte's wedding, and we're very excited to have Luke join our family, and it's just good. It's a sweet time, so we're getting ready for it. So Christmas is going to be extra special this year.
I know for us, Christmas is just any time that we can be all together in one place is always something that just makes my heart very full. And so a tradition that we have is we kind of have a hot chocolate night, and we watch Polar Express together. Even the big kids, all of us.
So good.
It's still such a fun movie to watch and things. And this year I might just have to switch that up and do a peppermint mocha latte, which is a reference to last time's latte moment. So if you didn't join us last time, go ahead and go back into those show notes, and you can get that recipe for the latte moment last time, the peppermint mocha latte, which you can't go wrong during the holiday.
I know. Just little mom pro tip
Yes.
is just get a pack of those little mini candy canes.
Oh, yeah.
Because you can use them with your hot chocolate bar. You can use them in coffees. You can just, they're just great.
They
you
are.
can put them on the top of a package. And
Oh, yeah.
somebody gave me that suggestion years ago. And
I like to put them on cupcakes.
Oh, perfect.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cupcakes. They're just so handy this time of year.
It is. And you
so
can
fun.
do them in anything. So
Merry
it's
Christmas,
very fun.
everybody.
Yes. Merry Christmas. I also wanted to just share too a little bit as we get into this, time about, thinking about what Leanne shared with us and just how it is hard when you're a new mom, the expectation versus reality of mothering. And I loved some of the things that she shared with us. I thought she was so vulnerable and shared her heart and just the things that she just really thought hard about what she wanted to share with all of you as our listeners as well. And, I thought she came from a place of humility because, sometimes, we've read all the books, you've done all the planning, you've taken the childbirth classes, you've done all those things. And then you have the baby and it just doesn't work out the way it says it does in those books. So I thought she was very vulnerable and very sweet about the things that she said.
And already making some notes on how new motherhood, first time motherhood has its own unique challenges and things that you're thinking, oh, that probably won't worry about that next time. But you do in the moment when you're doing something for the first time. And you're going to feel that.
It's definitely.
So she was, it definitely encourage you to go back. We are going to kind of launch off of the topic that we had with her and the conversation we had with her. And I just personally had a lot of struggle with this.
Yeah.
I felt like there's this kind of disconnect between what I thought I was supposed to feel versus what I was actually feeling.
Yeah.
And, we're going to get into that some more too. But I just, that comparison thing that women struggle with and whether we're comparing ourselves to someone else or the enemy really loves to get in there and say, let's compare you to who you think you should be. It's not even a real person. It's not even someone It's your image of who you should be as a mom or how you should feel.
Yeah.
And I was very, very defensive about that at times and not proud of that now. It's more of
definitely one of those things. If you could tell your younger self, maybe not to be so focused on that. Yeah.
And I did have godly people in my life that were saying, hey, you are putting a lot of pressure on yourself and your baby.
Yeah.
Your baby's just being a baby. I'm they don't know. This is not an issue of not wanting to please you or something. It's just a little baby that doesn't know any different. So, but that expectation thing and just really want us to dig in a little bit on that today because that I feel like is a place the enemy really tries to get
absolutely
a foothold on and say,
well, especially as a new mom, you feel very isolated.
Right.
You're literally sometimes just home alone for hours at a stretch, and you don't have this manual that's telling you what to do and what are they doing the right thing, the wrong thing, and you feel that isolation a lot, and that's where the enemy can really come into play.
And you're going to hear us say it so much here is kind of identifying community and getting out ahead of that the best that you can. It doesn't mean every day you're going to have exactly know who to call or what the situation is. Things are still going to come up. But when they come up, you can recognize them as kind of a little scheme that the enemy's laying out for you and trying to get to trick you into thinking, oh, you should be doing this a certain way. So what is he? He's an accuser, right?
Yeah.
So the devil's an accuser. And so anytime, whether it's in motherhood, in a friendship, in your relationship with your husband, anything where you're hearing you should, make sure that is probably coming from the enemy. Yes, he's all about accusing and shaming, and usually the voice of the Holy Spirit is come here and do this instead, rather than just you're terrible.
Yeah,
you're doing this wrong.
Why did you do this? Why did you do that?
Right.
Yeah, the accuser.
Yes.
I like that.
So being able to identify that and kind of separating that out from, when we have a hurt or when we have a disappointment, the devil tries to turn the volume up on that and just emphasize it in us instead of the Holy Spirit who's going to comfort and he's going to give you counsel. So just just recognizing
agree.
and saying, hey,
Yeah.
where am I falling in this? Am I putting myself under some scrutiny that God's not even putting me under? I'm putting this on myself, or the enemy's putting this on me.
Well, I know you kind of shared that that's kind of one of the things that you kind of fell trapped to, so how did you find that you could come out of that? Like, what was something that was your anchor, or something that you could just reset yourself on? How did that happen for you?
And it was definitely through prayer. It was definitely through, once it was identified, I think it was probably my mom, being able to see in me, like, you're being so hard on yourself about this. Like, this is an unrealistic expectation.
Yeah.
Expectation versus the reality, right? So you've built this up into something that no one could figure out the first round, right? So once it was identified in me, and I prayed about it and asked the Lord to kind of help me keep short accounts in that, and like not let it build up. When I would be tempted, or when I would hear that voice of accusation, then I could take it. And one thing that really helped me was this 1996 book. We talk about that one book, that one verse, that one conversation.
Important.
But it can sort of break a cycle sometimes. And, one of the things was this book called Shattering Our Assumptions. And it was like kind of data, which I don't usually read these like data books, but it interviewed 1,000 Christian women and just said, let's take an assessment of how you're doing. And for me, that data was kind of comforting, that I wasn't in it alone. This wasn't something I was doing wrong necessarily. It was just a common temptation that women were going through. And it was, how are you doing with your church commitments? How are you doing with your family and your children? And where is that dissatisfaction or not feeling fulfilled? Which is what we want, right? Women are looking for that fulfillment in our husbands, in our families, in our homes a lot of times. And so when there's a disconnect, it's not hitting
the gap.
In that gap. So, so that, like I said, that book was research from that time. But the idea that there are other people walking through it is usually the comfort. That's that community secret, right?
Definitely. I know for me, one of the things that my expectation versus reality that just was hard is that my birth story was very difficult with our firstborn, and everything that I had put in a birth plan went out the window about 2 hours in. And you're just kind of, at that point, you're just saying, I just want to have a healthy baby. And it did, nothing had really gone as planned, and things, Emma is here, she's healthy, happy and everything. And it was fine at the end of the day. But that was hard in the beginning for me, because all the things that you kind of, and I'm a planner, as we know from all the other episodes, that all the things that I kind of wanted to have happen, and, even take the pictures and do all those things, none of that happened. Right. So
you're in an emergency situation, or I don't know that you were. I'm just saying, like, anything that's like non-traditional plans.
So it was kind of hard, and I think I had a little bit of time of grief afterwards, that I didn't have those moments. And sometimes when I'll even say, sometimes when I have friends that will share their stories, I'm like, oh man, I did not get that. And then but it's just, that's the way God planned it, and I wouldn't change it now, and things. But that's just what happens, and things.
Interesting, not wanting to share that. Like, I've heard you reference that of not wanting to discourage moms.
I won't share my birth story unless someone has had their baby. That's what I'll share.
Then I'll share. And you ended up having 3 more babies.
I did. It did not discourage me from having more children.
She's fine. I do want to have that down for the record for those of you that are like, oh no.
And things. But I think it was just that's
also God,
the whole planner in me that I didn't go according to my plan. It went according to someone else's plan.
Yes, I had a C-section. My third pregnancy was a C-section, and they are like, Leanne, Dan, we're gonna have to do this, and I was like, I didn't read this chapter in the book. They were like, you don't have to do anything. We do it all at the surgery. And I was like, because I don't know anything about C-section.
That's so funny.
What do you mean you have to go to recovery? What is this? Say, it was just funny that I remember them wheeling me into the surgery, and I'm like, but I didn't read the book. Okay, lady, we don't dare.
Well, I know you talked too about community, and so did Leanne and her, you know, and just how their church community, they have family in town and different people. And for me, one of the things that was just a big emphasis in my early parenting and being a mom was I was involved in a mom's group. MOPS.
Yes.
And MOPS was just such an integral part of my mothering story. And so I hope that, you know, there's not as many moms groups that I've heard of. You know, some things, you know, they're just not meeting like they used to. And it's hard, you know, a lot of the churches and the different organizations, moms working, and volunteers. It's always hard to find the volunteers for childcare. But if you have the opportunity to get connected to a mom's group, I would just really encourage you to do that. Even if it's once a month, you know, just to have that time with other moms so that you can feel connected and not alone. You know, like you guys, you share so many stories and you're like, oh my gosh, that happened to me.
Right.
Oh my gosh, that's exactly what my baby's doing, or that's exactly what I'm going through. And it just really comforts you.
And we have said this as well, is a little goes a long way. I mean, doing something is more than zero. So even if, like you said, a monthly thing, even if it's not something you can do every week, or maybe you're, you know, at some point your children are in preschool or mom's day out or something like that, and you could take some time to invite them to your house. We talked about this in the episode with Leanne as well, is that creativity and coming up with, you know, maybe I don't have these opportunities in my community, but maybe I'm the one that needs to invite, and I'm the one that needs to host, and you do not have to have it all perfect to do that. And you shared that with her.
And the mentor moms, you know, if you're an older mom, you know, kind of going in and putting your arm around those younger moms and just letting them know that there is not a manual and every day is not going to be the same. And if they have a problem, you can call me in the evening or in the middle of the night even, you know, like just being available to a new mom, I think is a big resource for them.
Yeah. Not being judgmental, like just having somebody, it makes a difference. It makes that expectation versus reality thing kind of merge together a little better, is somebody that's going to be there with you without the judgment of just like, what do you mean you don't know how to do that? No, you're coming in with, this part, it looks a little intimidating, but it gets easier or something. You know?
I loved what Leanne said too when she was sharing about how when she had thought that having a baby was just, you know, doing life plus a baby. And she said, I love that. I go, that is precious, because it's in some ways we do
like they're a little
that,
suitcase,
you know, that, okay, we're just going to, you know, add this to the schedule, add this to the routine. And it's so opposite of that.
Yes.
The routine, you know, I mean, obviously you create a routine with your child, but it's like, you know, it's definitely, it does change things.
And she has, and you know, she shared this too, but she and her baby are very chill. Like, you know, giving that grace. I know from one experience to the next with small children, with babies, I had the get along, go along, easy to take places baby. And then I had the one that was like, my nap starts in 10 minutes. You better have me back in my bed, or there will be, everybody will be mad, you know? So, and I was like, what am I doing differently? I'm not. It's a different person. It's a different
I think one of ours, like the oldest, definitely had the routine and things. And when you have another child, I always laugh about this because our second born, Faith, she was on one of our episodes. So if you remember, she was doing that. You met her on the podcast with Charlotte, which is your second born. And Faith is the queen of the 10-minute nap. Because she would be in the car because I'd have to pick Emma
up. It's a life skill you gave her.
It is. And she can still to this day take a 10-minute nap. I think it is actually amazing. And I said, I credit myself for helping her do that.
You're welcome. Having to be flexible.
Exactly.
Having to go with the flow. I know.
I think one of the fun things too was, you know, you shared or she actually asked us the question about like marriage, and like one of her favorite episodes was about our marriage episodes, which we give a shout out to our husbands. That was a lot of fun. That
was so fun.
I think we'll do a part 2.
Marriage Matters. Go back and watch.
I think we'll do a part 2 of that at another time. But your spouse is still your spouse, even if you have children. And so I know you had shared, how Dan was a big help when the kids were little, and he had his routine. And so with me, Tim had his routine with the kids, and it's just important to always keep your spouse involved in that part as well. But also have time just for your spouse too.
Right. Yeah. Keeping that sometimes in order to be able to say, I need to get these 3 things done this evening so that we can be together, so that we can hang out together, and dividing that up. And for us, it was me doing dishes and Dan doing bedtime, because I had been with the kids all day and I was ready for that break, but he had missed them.
Sure.
And he was also really good at the accents and the voices on the bedtime stories. And I was not. And they were like, can you get Dad? You're not that good at this. Thank you. I'm sorry. But I was just like tired by the end of the day. Like if it was up to me, and one night a week he was out for a music rehearsal, and I'd be like, okay, you're taking yourselves in, Daddy's not here. And they're like, oh man. So, but that teamwork, that tag team, and that will shift over the years. But that new mom expectation and reality is also dividing up who's doing what, and who needs a break, and who's got fresh attitude and fresh personality for kids, and who needs a break from kids to go do something else. So it really does work.
It is good. And I know when I was listening to a lot of the things that Leanne shared, it really did make me think back to when our kids were little. I mean, it is really hard to think how fast that goes. We say this a lot, but it really is true that it just really does go fast. So even if you're in the midst of this new stage, the preschool stage, the toddler stage, it really does go fast. And then before you know it, they're adult children, which is who we basically have it in our lives now and things. And so I just love, kind of made me reminisce about those first giggles, the first laughs, the rolling overs. I have a few friends in this season too, and I just love watching when they post things on social media, and just like, oh, that is so fun.
You're getting to know them. Yes, you're getting to know your own child, and like what their little personalities are like, whether they're going to be the 10-minute nap host or not.
Yes. Definitely.
I did want us to share Leanne's verse.
Yes,
is this a good time
I do.
for that?
Yeah.
So in the episode, if you watched or listened to the last episode, we were kind of running out of time. We had so much to cover with Leanne, and so we asked her to give us our homework, which was the verse, because we had asked our guests this season to share a verse with us of like something that they stand on to pass along, and she just gave us a reference, and so we want to share that verse.
Yes,
you want me
Isaiah 41:10, and that says, "Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." And I go, wow, that is a powerful verse.
That's her mom verse.
That is her mom verse.
Stands on that it's not in her strength. It's God working through her.
Yeah.
It's him, and that she's also not to be afraid.
Yeah.
Which I think is a really common temptation for moms, and especially new moms. I feel like that's true in all the stages, honestly. Because when they get older and they're not with you, you have different fears.
Sure.
You have those fears where you're staring at them, watching them sleep when they're babies, and then when they're driving out of the driveway the first time.
Yeah.
Woo.
All of it.
So
big. I thought that was a wonderful verse.
Yes,
to be able to
I love that.
I love that. Do all that.
And we want to expose the enemy and speak the truth of God's word. And the reason that we're always trying to circle it back to God's word is because that is that anchoring point that you've mentioned and that we've talked about, is like, when you can stand on truth, it's not just you making it up. Is this normal? Is this right? It's that we can go back to God's word for that. So
it's really good.
Yeah.
Well, I know I enjoyed listening to her. Like I had said, the vulnerability that, and just, she knows that not every day has been perfect, and she's learning as she goes. And I think that's where we have to be able to give ourselves that grace and space, so that we can make sure that we can help even others in our journey. So sometimes, I've always said, if you're in a grocery store and you see another mom, or if you're doing things, share things and be bold. Like I know sometimes it really does sound kind of funny and things, but if you're out there and you see a mom, or say you're in a restaurant and you see a mom who's struggling, I still to this day go up and I share things. I'm like, can I just give you a hint? This is really worked well for me. And, I think this would work good for you. And, hey, they can take it or leave it, but I just feel like that's just the way to pass on that.
You're going to be able to communicate that your heart is for their good.
Yeah.
And that you're saying it out of encouragement, not to criticize them or anything.
Yeah.
And, that's right. Criticizing strangers is not what we're saying at all. We're saying like, oh, if you're in the store and like, oh, have you tried this? Or this was, my kids loved this or something, So those pro tips, those mom tips. And I feel like one of the things we've talked about today is kind of looking side to side.
Oh, yeah.
Like who's in your season with you, who's ahead of you.
Yeah, I like that.
Who is, and then always that we're always, looking to the Lord to help us through that, because our fulfillment does need to be in Him. And our little babies and our children, as they grow up, they're not going to be able to meet all of our emotional needs in the way that we may want them to. They hurt our feelings. They can do things, that whatever stage that's in as they get older.
Yeah.
But we look to the Lord for that. And He's the one that is going to give us that fulfillment, because this is His idea.
Yeah.
Motherhood.
Yes.
And mothers looking after each other, that sisterhood of motherhood.
Sisterhood of motherhood
is His idea.
It is. And I think that's where this has all come, the way that God can weave things through our lives, whether it's the people that come into our life or maybe it's a certain place that happens, but it's all those details that no matter what, we have to sit back and think about how God is just working in us and through us in so many different ways. And it was really fun to listen to Leanne's story about being a new mom. It did, like I said, make me think back and those days and stuff. So,
and she's such a mature believer, but she's experiencing new things as a mom.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's an age thing, and sometimes it's just a life experience thing, and they're not separate from each other in that.
So I think for everyone, today as you've listened, I think the expectation versus the reality of being a new mom, the one takeaway I think is just to realize there is no right or wrong.
Right.
Always search for the truth. Reach out to others.
Right.
And also accept help if someone wants to help you as well.
Amen.
And do that, definitely. And so I think that kind of wraps us up for today.
This was such a fun one for us.
Definitely very fun.
Such a fun one for us to do. So we do want to share our verse, because
the sisterhood of motherhood.
Circling back to this with this sisterhood of motherhood, we are these ages and stages. This has really been fun for us. We are really loving it. And even with the reflections, to sit back and take a minute and talk about it and not feel as rushed. So how about if we look at Hebrews 10:24 and 25? And we are this theme for this season is, let us consider how we may spur one another on. You're going to hear this in us a lot, on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching.
Yeah, it's perfect.
So good.
Great verse to be reminded of.
Yes, be refreshed.
Be encouraged and stay well grounded.
And Merry Christmas.